This conference will now be recorded.
Oh, perfect. Okay. As I was saying, we're going to discuss those we're going to discuss those issues towards the end of the presentation here, and we're going to start off on talking about some goals here. Our first goal: getting to know your neighbors. Well, it looks like there's probably about 25 households here that are in attendance here tonight. So I'm going to say that we've done a pretty good job. Let me rephrase that. You all have done a pretty good job of getting to know the neighbors already. So I think we've got that one pretty well covered. Improve your quality of life. And then lastly, to create a relationship with local law enforcement. I'd say you guys are doing that as well. And now I'll ask you, what do you think? Go ahead.
Just tell me when you want me to advance. I'm trying to follow along.
I'm still on the goals page. I'm just covering a couple quick notes real quick. And then just to kind of play off what I said on the last slide real quick, I just think of the three main goals that you would want from your crime watch. And the idea is that no one knows your neighborhood as well as you do. And one of the great things about this program is that it can be whatever you want it to be. It's going to be your program. And I'm going to go on to the next slide. Should be slide 4.
Okay.
All right. And then getting to know your neighbors. We like to use the ABC approach to this. Arrange a kickoff meeting. We're already doing that. Build participation. Build participation. Again, we're already doing a pretty good job of that. And celebrate with your neighbors. This is going to be maybe something in the terms of maybe a block party. You guys do have a neighborhood pool down there. I mean, maybe organizing something down at the pool, something along those lines, something that gets the neighbors out and just getting to know each other a little bit better. Something that where it's basically what you don't want to do, even though it's the idea is brought to you by starting a neighborhood crime watch. You're not getting together to talk about neighborhood issues per se. You're getting out to enjoy your neighborhood, and that's where it starts. You build that camaraderie. And I'm going to be moving on to number 5, Ed. All right. How do we improve the quality of life? We'll talk about members learning how to make their homes more secure, and we do that by using a principle called crime prevention through environmental design, or CPTED. Or as I like to call it, landscaping with a cop. You've heard of Shop with a Cop at the holidays, or Tip a Cop. I like to call our CPTED surveys that we do in the residential communities landscaping with a cop. It's when I come out, I'm sitting there, I'm talking about different types of landscaping. What kind of rock you're going to want to put in your planting beds, what kind of plants you're going to want to put under the windows, taking a look at your trees, just various things like that you would. Quite frankly, it would be conversations that you would never think that you would be having with a police officer, and that's something that we do for free. All right, our next point would be neighbors watching out for each other and the community, and then more reports to local law enforcement. With our Crime Watch programs, what we see is we expect the calls for service to go up with more increased calls to the police, and that's not a bad thing necessarily. It's what the idea behind it is, after this training, we're going to talk about, what is suspicious activity? When do we want you to call the police with it?
And so equal with everything. You're going to treat everybody.
Well, they don't want to do anything. They just want to take what you.
Hello? Okay. All right. Okay. Basically, we expect the calls for service to go up because people are going to know, going to be able to have a little bit better idea of how to identify suspicious activity. So we expect the calls for service to go up, but we also expect them to dissipate as well as people who may be coming into the neighborhood for unsavory reasons are starting to figure out, hey, people are keeping an eye out, and they'll move on elsewhere. Ed, I'm going on to number 6. All right. Creating a relationship with law enforcement. Obviously involve local law enforcement. We're doing that now. Train residents in the neighborhood watch basics like observation and reporting, and we're going to be hitting on that in the next couple slides here. And continue to seek additional skills, education and skills. The final point, on our final point, we encourage our communities to come to our quarterly Crime Watch meetings that we host at NNI. The next one tentatively would be in July. However, I'm not sure what's going to happen with COVID as of yet. And kind of off topic first, on topic but off topic, Ed, we may want to maybe consider a virtual quarterly Crime Watch training just as a mental note while I'm thinking about it. But
I think that's a good idea.
Our quarterly Crime Watch trainings, what we do is, we've had just past ones. We've done presentations on use of proper use of social media. We've done presentations on crime prevention through environmental design. Then we also had one where it was like we just really had a very open format. The background on it was we had a few neighborhoods that had just recently completed their Crime Watch training, like you all are doing tonight, and we had some neighborhoods that they've been around for a while, so we more or less just turned it into a question and answer session. And I honestly think that was probably one of the better meetings. And Blake Kinsley and who was previously with NNI and myself, we just kind of sat back, we answered some questions that came on, but for the most part the neighborhoods were exchanging information, exchanging ideas with each other, and it was one of the best meetings really. But we just picked different topics that we think would be beneficial and would help you grow your Crime Watch programs. Moving on to number 7. We got to put this out there first and foremost. Neighborhood watch members are not vigilantes. Our goal for this presentation is to enhance your ability to be a trusted witness. We're not wanting to work on your abilities to chase down bad guys, but we do want you to better be able to identify suspicious activity and suspects. And I'll just put this out there, just pretty straightforward. If you're looking to be part of the chase, so to speak, you're probably going to be at the wrong meeting. I'll just put that out there. But we want to move on to suspicious activity. It's going to be slide number 8. All right, suspicious activity. Examples of suspicious activity. That's going to be vehicles moving slowly with no apparent destination. And if at night, they're probably not going to have any headlights on. We're going to talk about people wandering through the neighborhood with no apparent destination. People you're not familiar with or strangers sitting in a car. A car parked in an odd place where cars don't usually park. This is going to be like your isolated dead-end streets or areas of the neighborhood where there aren't any homes or locations that would be hosting a mass gathering, like our churches or parks or anything like that. And then the catch-all is any unusual activity in your neighborhood, because remember, if it's in your neighborhood, if it's unusual or not. Basically, you live there. Just the term I like to use, the best to describe this is you all spend a whole lot of time in one neighborhood. Us as the police department, we spend a little bit of time in a whole lot of neighborhoods. So it's you're going to have a better feel for it than we are. Other quality of life examples may be a problem house or business being used for criminal activity. The biggest would be a drug house. What we are looking for are patterns of behavior, such as in and out traffic with short visits, consistent large gatherings, particular into the late night and early morning hours, the appearance of consistent turnover of residents or a large number of residents for the average house, activity and behavior that is not conducive to the overall well-being and safety of the neighborhood. Quality of life issues, those should be reported to your local community interaction officer, which here at the Shoal Creek Patrol Division is going to be either myself or Officer Bill Keeney. Bill Keeney is my daytime counterpart, and he has a drive for issues such as this. Believe me. We're going to ask you specific questions, and we may ask for additional information regarding vehicles, suspects, anything else that might be able to help us identify who some of the players are out there, so to speak. All right, Ed, we're moving on to number 9. We're going to start talking about observation. This is going to be the part of the presentation where we're going to be looking at the Block Watch incident report, followed by the suspect identification sheet, and that should have been in that PDF that we sent out. Have we had a chance to get that distributed yet, Ryan?
Sorry, I had to unmute. Yes, I did get it posted on the Facebook page, and then Steve is working to get it posted on.
You posted the PowerPoint. Did you post
Oh.
the PDF?
Oh, the PDF. I did not see the PDF.
He
I will look for
posted
that.
the PowerPoint.
Yeah, the PDF of the PowerPoint. Yeah. It should have said virtual CW PowerPoint. Is that the file you posted, Brian?
He posted the
Neighborhood Crime Watch PowerPoint, the one that we're watching right now.
one
Okay,
you're
perfect.
going.
All right. Okay. Is there anybody that does not have it up or have access to it at this point?
Can you go back to the
And I think this might be a good time to maybe take a couple-minute break and let everybody get situated with it. What do you think?
If you swipe
Sure, that's
right
fine.
on this, you can see the PowerPoint of what's going on.
Okay. I'm gonna. Hey, Ed, do you want to move it on to the next page or to the next slide real quick? You should have the incident report and just see if everybody can see it through the on their phones or computers.
Sure. If you'd like to get that bigger, hold on. Can you hear me? Are you all hearing me? Hello?
I'm
Yep,
hearing
we
you.
Hear you.
Yes,
Okay.
everyone's on
If
mute.
you'd like
just
to see that a
cut
little,
back on the.
yeah, here's what I want is if you all are wanting to blow that up or make it bigger, you can just grab the gray bar at the top and slide it up, and it'll make the contacts smaller, but the screen will go bigger so you can see it. That may
Okay.
help.
Guys, I will work to make sure we get a copy of this so that we can be sharing that on our Facebook page and the website and everything.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I think if we're comfortable, I think we're going to go ahead and just continue on. Is everybody good with that?
Yep, go right ahead.
Okay. All right. Before we go over to the handouts, there's a few things we want to talk about. We're going to ask that you observe actions and behaviors when you're observing suspicious activity. Observe the actions and the behaviors. Don't base the perceptions on any appearances, race, or ethnicity. We're going to ask that you be able to articulate the suspicious activity. Just being able to tell the 911 dispatcher that it's suspicious, that's not good enough. You're going to need to explain what is suspicious. Examples would be, yes, this car drove through our neighborhood at a very slow pace, appeared to be looking around. We've never seen the car before. Somebody walking down the street, looking in car windows, trying door handles. Just again, anything that draws your attention and it's out of the ordinary. Reflect on the circumstances and potential explanations. I'll kind of go into that a little bit further. Let's kind of use my example a second ago. Car driving around through the neighborhood slowly. They tend to be looking around. You don't know the car. Maybe they even come around a second time. Maybe they come around a third time. They pull up in a driveway. It might be, it's one of those deals where it could be, somebody visiting a relative from out of town. They've never been to the house. They're not familiar with the neighborhood. It's, one of those things. And then lastly, if it's not potentially alarming, check with the other neighbors who just judgment you respect. And this is going to be within reason, like a quick phone call or a trip next door or across the street or something along those lines. Again, the key phrase here is if it's not potentially alarming. I'll throw this example out there. If it's one of those deals where you see a pair of size 12 basketball shoes going in through your neighbor's front window, and you've known your neighbors to wear nothing but loafers and heels or maybe sandals during the summer months, yeah, that's probably not much to ponder about. That's probably something we want to be getting a 911 call about right away. Let's see. All right, so moving on to slide 10. That's going to be our block watch incident report. Let's see. This is more for after the incident has been observed. The police can use this information for intelligence purposes, and also we pass this information on to other neighborhoods. I'm gonna sneak on down here real quick to, or I'm gonna actually hold on just a second. I totally got myself way off here. Okay. Okay, our block watch incident report. This is going to be, I'll just kind of go through it real quick. And this is very general information that we usually end up collecting when we're taking police reports, or we're taking any kind of reported activity, any type of reported activity, whether if it's an offense or just suspicious activity. Basically, we're going to be asking if you're reporting a crime or suspicious activity. A person walking down the street, for example, looks like they're prowling, or just whatever the case may be, that's going to be suspicious activity, but they haven't necessarily committed a crime, as opposed to you see the suspicious person, look like they're prowling, they're trying car doors, and they actually get into a car and take something out of the car. That's going to be a crime, so that kind of helps to differentiate the two there. We're going to want to know the date and time, or approximate time, of the report. Or, of course, we're going to want to know where it happened at, whether if it's an exact address or the closest intersection. And then we ask for a brief description. Again, date and time. I observed a white male, slender, looked to be early 20s, looking in my neighbor's car, and they opened the car door and reached in, and they took out what appeared to be a purse or something like that. Or if you're just reporting the suspicious activity, you just say, yeah, they were walking through the neighborhood and they were looking in people's cars as they were going through. And then this is the next sections are going to be to help us determine if we need to go in and look for a archive of the call for service. We're going to ask if 911 was called, if yes, we're going to ask how long did it take the officers to respond, and that's going to give us a little bit of an idea, what our response times are, but it's also going to give us an idea of, how long, basically how long it might have been before we missed them. And we're going to ask what the outcome is. Did the officers, were the officers able to get in the area, contact somebody? Did the officers do an area canvas that you know of? One misperception I'll kind of do my best to clear up. As you know, our staffing up here isn't always the best. People, when we do get calls for service or suspicious party calls, if it's just reporting suspicious activity, it's not always going to be reported as soon as we get it. And a lot of times, and it is frustrating for everybody. The frustrations we see from citizens is they'll call it in, and they'll be at the front door, or they'll be in the garage waiting for the officers to show up. And in a perfect world, officers are close by, they see the call pop up on their computer, they head over there, and they either just miss the person, or they get the person identified, they contact them, they figure out what they're doing out in the neighborhood. That's in a perfect world. But sometimes it might take a while before we can get that call dispatched, and that's just because we have the priority calls that we're responding to. And what I usually find is people will usually wait about 20 or 30 minutes, and when officers aren't able to respond within that time, in their mind, in the citizens' mind, the officers didn't show up. And in a sense, yeah, we probably didn't show up when we were needed. But when these calls do come out, when we do get these calls, by law, we have to respond to them. So it's, what we'll find, typically what we'll come across is we'll have, we'll get a citizen call and they're upset that, hey, I called the police, they never came. We go and we research the call and we figure out that, the officers were dispatched like maybe an hour and a half later and arrived 10 minutes later. And it's are the officers out there when, getting there when they need to? Unfortunately, they're not. However, though, we're still getting out in the area. We're still doing our area canvases. And what that does is, though, it does give us a record of, yes, we did have a report of suspicious activity in this neighborhood. And that's where your suspect descriptions and your vehicle descriptions come in, because that, that information can be used later on, because if we start having a rash of property crimes, what we're going to do is our detectives do go back and start looking at the suspicious party calls. And now if it's, through one of our reported property crimes, we develop a blue suspect vehicle, we develop some suspects. Now we can start going back through some of these suspicious party calls, and we can start getting an idea of what other areas these folks may have been committing crimes in. And we do actually clear cases that way. So it's one of those things where we might not be able to get in the neighborhood and get them identified that night, but there's a decent chance that we're going to be able to tie them to something later on. So not always the most ideal turnout, but it does work out for us. And let's see, where was I? Okay. And then everything else will be optional information. If you want to provide your name, address, phone number, email address, as well as the same information for anybody else who may have witnessed this. Now you have a couple of options here. You can either scan this in as a PDF and email it to either, myself or Officer Keeney over here at Shoal Creek, or Officer Lance Linz over at North Patrol. And on these, we actually have our community email addresses on here. So that's, you got that option there. You can also fax them to us. Or if you go on nni.org, you can do these electronically online through their website as well. So you do have some options there. You all right, Ed?
I'm fine. I just
Okay.
had a question. They were, some of our participants are wanting to ask. In fact, Chet asked it. The watch incident report would be completed and submitted online. Is that correct? Or is this, I think this is just a tool, but talk to them about it.
Okay, so basically the incident report, that's going to be after you've observed suspicious activity, or you've observed a crime. You've called the police. What this does is this kind of gives us the heads up of, hey, you would send this to us after the fact, once officers have been able to respond out there. What that does is that gives us that gives us the information that you have seen, and it tells us, hey, we need to go in and look at our calls for service. And at that point we can go in, we can take the incident report that you've sent to us, and we can kind of match that up with with not just that call for service, but potentially other calls for service that we may have gotten on the same car in the same area. It actually makes our job. It actually makes it a little bit easier for us, because we can, especially after a weekend, we can come in here and we look at the police reports that are taken. First of all, that's going to be the actual crimes that had been reported. We've taken reports on. We'll go in and we'll look at the calls for service, just depending on what we have going on. If we have a specific pattern of crimes like property crimes, car theft from autos, or anything like that. But for us to go through every call for service, we would be doing that's all we would be doing all day. So just getting the incident reports from you all, that kind of helps us narrow down what we need to be looking at and where we need to be looking. So I hope that clears it up a little bit. All right.
Yeah, so to just make sure I understand that correctly, obviously every time an incident takes place, we want to make sure we're calling the police. If it's an immediate urgent thing, like somebody's breaking into a house, we want to call 911. If it's a suspicious person, perhaps do we still need to call 911, or would we need to call the non-emergency line?
Okay, that's a very good question. I'm glad you brought that up. Emergency versus non-emergency. If you have a crime that you see being occurred, we want to call to 911. People will say, well, yeah, it looked like crime, but nobody was getting hurt, and we didn't want to bother you. Bother us, please. That's what we get paid for. And if it's a crime in progress, we definitely want that 911 call, because I'm telling you, just what appears to be like a very minor crime could escalate rather quickly. As far as the suspicious activity, that would be that's a judgment call. I mean, on the surface, I would say, yeah, that would be a great non-emergency call, and the non-emergency number, it'll be 816-234-5111. I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to fault anybody if they decide, yeah, you know what, I'm not real comfortable with this. This is suspicious. They're not really doing anything, but I feel like something bad may be starting to happen. I'm never going to fault somebody for calling 911. When you call 911 in Kansas City, it goes to our communications unit, and a 911 operator will answer the phone. Our 911 operators, especially after about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, our 911 operators are also our non-emergency operators, and they take on switchboard duties. So basically, the calls are, a 911 operator, they'll have a phone in front of them with a screen in front of them with about 10 phone lines. The top 5 are like 911 lines. Then it's, the non-emergency lines after that. So they're going to prioritize it as far as all that goes. And if it's one of those where they make the determination, hey, this is not going to be a 911 call, they might ask you to, they might put you on hold, especially if they have another pressing 911 call that's coming in. So that's just kind of a little bit, hopefully that clears it up a little bit more as far as how that works. All right, if there's no other questions on the incident report, I'm gonna move on to the suspect identification.
I have a question.
Okay.
I have a question. Can you repeat that non-emergency number? Oh, someone posted it on chat. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's all right. Thank you. Thank you for posting that, by the way, whoever posted that. All right, if there's nothing else on that, I'm gonna move on to the suspect identification worksheet. Perfect. All right.
Sorry, Officer Jones, we had a discrepancy in what the non-emergency number was. Is that 5111 or 5100?
5111.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Okay. All right. And then the suspect identification sheet, that's going to be slide number 11. All right. This is going to be something that helps keep you on task. It can also be used as a study guide or a reference. Some people keep them on close to a phone at home. They'll keep them on a refrigerator. Some people keep copies of these in their car. Just somewhere where you think it might be useful. And then some people, they just study it, and they just kind of try to commit it to memory. But just kind of like they teach us at the police academy, we like to start at the head and work our way down. First thing we're gonna look for is the race and sex of the person. Is it a white male, black female, Hispanic male? I mean, just whatever the race and sex is. Approximate age, as well as approximate height and weight. And even on that, if you want to say person's slender, person's medium build, person's,
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Just a quick thing. I wanted to make sure everybody knows. Really important when you do see something to call. It's really, I've been having trouble with my mute button, but really important for us to use the phone and call and talk to these police officers, because they won't know about that suspicious car. And I think, it's really important from a perspective of call 911 if you've got a question about something that's going on. They will put it in the right spot and have it. The data is so important from a perspective of crime fighting to understand there are some patterns, or there's a white van that's been driving through the neighborhood. Well, you guys, maybe one neighborhood that it's been driving through, but it may have been driving through 3 or 4 others, and having that information begins to build a case so they know patterns, what time they're coming through, because we're, creatures of habit. It's important to have that, but this document is not something that has to be filled out, but it is a good document to help organize your thoughts so that when you do talk to the police, you've got a good amount of information for them. And it could be that when you call 911, it could be, a while before a police officer is going to show up. It's good to write down what you've seen so you don't forget. That's all.
All right. So after we look at the race and sex and age and approximate height and weight, we're gonna start looking on for some additional features. Hair color, if they're wearing a hat. Eye color, if they have any kind of glasses or anything that might stick out. Complexion, if they're wearing a coat or a shirt. Any type of jewelry that stands out. What kind of pants they're wearing? Are they wearing khaki shorts? Are they wearing blue jeans? Are they wearing whatever's going to, whatever type of clothing description you have. You're also going to be looking for scars and marks and tattoos. And one thing that really helps us identify people more than in a lot of instances, and this might shock some people, we identify a whole lot of people by the shoes they're wearing. Because people will be able to go home, they'll be able to throw off a coat, or they'll be able to put a coat on, or they can go get a different coat. But shoes, a lot of people, they only have one or two pair of shoes, and they pretty much wear them with their, a lot of times they'll wear them with everything. We've identified a lot of people just by the shoes they're wearing, or tentatively identified somebody. And then, if they're wearing a tie or any other type of accessory that might stand out. And this is getting a little bit more in depth, but I'll just kind of go over it real quickly. I think you guys you will be looking at it at some point. The facial details, and we kind of talked about it a little bit more. That's when we start getting into the complexions a little bit. They have a blotchy complexion, acne damage, anything like that. Shape their eyebrows. They have a pointy nose or more of a shape of their nose. If they have bushy cheeks, they have thin lips, any type of facial hair, mustache, goatee, what do they call it underneath your lower lip, salt patch, anything like that. And then also any other anything else that might stand out to you. And then in instances where you may have had words with your suspect, did they say anything? And with that, did they speak with any kind of a dialect? Do they sound like they might have had a southern accent? Do they have a foreign accent? Did they mumble? Just anything that might stand out that might be unique to that person. And then importantly, were there any tools or weapons present? And then last part of it is we're just going to get onto our vehicle descriptions. We're looking at the color of the car, the make and model as best you can, and your number of occupants, license plate number. And very important with license plate numbers are very good. We can do things with even partial license plates, but we need the state as best as you can get it. With a full license plate, we got ways of running it through all 50 states and all U.S. territories. Takes a little bit longer. The state really does help us out a lot. Makes it harder to have a partial license plate in no state. So like I said, if nothing else, please get the state, as best you can. If there's any damage or rust on the car, and any type of bumper stickers or wheel covers or anything like that, and then in an instance when a suspect vehicle has left the area of an incident or a crime, which direction they traveled, and any other details that you think would be helpful. All right. And 12 was a blank slide, Ed, so we're going to skip to 13. All right, slide 13, we're talking about reporting. We're going to talk about some examples of the type of things to include when reporting. This is going to be like a person stopping to talk to a child. again, my favorite when we're talking about residential neighborhoods, because we do get this a lot. Someone looking into windows in parked cars. Property being taken from closed businesses or from homes when no one is home or they are not immediately present. Like, for example, we see it a lot this year. People, they'll leave the lawn mowing equipment out, out back or on the side of the house or, next to a shed or something along those lines. The people might be home, but they're inside, and it's summer. People tend to stay inside a little bit more during the summer months, during the day when it's hot. We do get a lot of instances where outdoor equipment is taken during broad daylight. An unfamiliar car parking beside or behind a house or business. This is going to be, if the homeowners aren't home or if the business is closed or, just basically they don't belong back there. And then, of course, you always have the obvious things like someone being forced into a vehicle or someone who is screaming or shouting for help. Also, if you have called to report suspicious activity and then it has been determined it was not suspicious, please call us back and let us know that we can cancel that call for service. And I'll just kind of go back to a good example of that would be, again, relatives from out of town, they're not familiar with it. They're staying with one of your neighbors. They're not familiar with the neighborhood. They drive past the house a couple times before they figure out, hey, this is where I'm supposed to be. Something like that. It's easy, it's like, oh, okay. And just that call back to the police, 911 or the non-emergency line, just say, hey, I called a little bit ago in regards to this. We figured out what it is. It was nothing. That's all. It's really that's all it really takes, and it frees us up on as well. Moving on to the next slide, our phone numbers, and we've already talked. As soon as I can get my mouse in the right place. All right, phone numbers. Again, we've talked about 911, and we've also put the non-emergency number out there, that 234-5111. We've already talked about a lot of this already. Let's see. I'll just kind of go over this real quick, just to kind of clarify a little bit more. When to call 911, that's going to be when an immediate police officer response is needed. That's going to be to report a crime in progress, a fire, or to save a life, or any situation where an emergency response is required by law enforcement, fire, or EMS. Again, like I said before, if you're not sure, just call 911 and our people down in our communications unit will make that final determination. Very important. When you're talking to the call taker or the dispatcher, you're going to want to tell them what is happening right now and where it's happening. You're going to want to talk about who's involved. That's where your suspect descriptions are going to come into play. Race, sex, approximate height and weight, approximate age, clothing descriptions, vehicle descriptions, anything like that. And then, of course, if anyone's injured, and how serious are the injuries. And then I'll just kind of hit on some examples for non-emergencies. That's going to be like abandoned cars. Car's been out there for a couple days. No one's has come or gone from it. It could be the car was broken down, and for whatever reason the person can't. Hasn't gotten a tow truck for it yet, or it's stolen, it's a stolen auto that's been dumped in the neighborhood. Any type of graffiti, that's going to be something we would come out and take a police report for that, because it would be a property damage. But if the person who did the graffiti is not around, that's going to be something that's going to be something that could be called into the non-emergency number, as well as any minor property damages or anything when the suspect is just gone from the area and obviously no one's hurt. Slide 15, very important. Whatever you do, just stay calm. That's practicing your breathing exercises, whatever it is that keeps you a little bit more calm, and then just call the police immediately. And I'll take this as an example real quick. Once you call the police, if you want to get this information out to the neighborhood, like through your Facebook pages or your Nextdoor or anything, please, by all means, do that. Get the information out. We want the information to get out. We want that information sharing. We just, as being from the police department, we'd kind of like to be the first to know. It gets frustrating when they'll report crimes or suspicious activity to Facebook. They'll report it to Nextdoor. They'll report it to whoever. So every other type of social media outlet. We'll get a call about it the next day, within the next day or two, asking questions about it, or even more so, people get frustrated because, well, the police never came. Well, the police never came because nobody bothered to call 911 or the non-emergency number. So whatever you do, just please make sure you're calling the police with it first. All right, information to provide, and we kind of talked about this again, so this will be something that just kind of hit on what we talked about a couple slides ago. Exact location or address of the activity or the emergency, when the activity happened, and the description of any people and or vehicles that are involved. Again, license plates, we like license plates. Just make sure you can do it safely. I'll put an example out there of what not to do. So we had a lady, she's seen a car she thought was suspicious, ended up being a real one of those fixer-up people that buys ugly homes, so to speak. But she goes out, jumps out in front of this guy as he's driving down the street with her smartphone out, gets a picture of the guy's license, gets a video of the guy's license plate, then walks over and starts basically interrogating him on what he's doing in the neighborhood. Luckily, he was an investor who wanted to come in and invest in the neighborhood, but I think we can agree that if it was somebody who was really up to something, fight or flight kicks in. That could have probably turned out to be real bad real quick. So again, license plates or any other information, it's great. Just be safe doing it. All right, slide 17. We're going to talk about what to expect. All right. You may be asked to make a complaint or testify in court. Just something to remember is without your help in the court process, the criminal will probably go unpunished and continue to commit crimes. The police, we may ask you to attend a lineup or look through a collection of mug shots to try to identify the person you saw commit the crime. The way we do lineups, it's kind of changed a little bit over the years. I know we've probably seen the movies before where, they bring a line of, 8 or 10 people and let the bright lights shine and somebody's behind a one-way mirror looking at people. We'll generally do something like that if it's a high profile, like if it's a homicide or a high profile crime, something along those lines. We may do a lineup like that. Most of our lineups that we see pertaining to property crimes, which is probably our biggest problem here in the Northland, is our property crimes. Most of the time, if you're being called in to do a lineup, it means that you've probably got a decent look at the suspect or a good look at the suspect. And we've probably already tentatively identified the suspect. And then at that point, we're calling you in. We've already got a lineup of it'll be anywhere from 3 to 6 people. Mostly we'll have about 6 people on the lineup. And we'll have our suspect who we think basically the person we think committed the crime. We'll have them somewhere on that lineup. And then we just ask you if you can identify the suspect on the lineup, and we just kind of go from there. Like I said, the old-fashioned lineup or looking through mugshot books, it's we will do it from time to time. We just don't do it very much yet. We just don't do it very often anymore. All right, slide 18. This is kind of one of my favorite slides. We're going to talk about some terminology. And I'm going to pose a question to the group here real quick. If something is stolen from your property and you are not there, what term would you use to call law enforcement, and what number should you call? Again, I told you before, this is the first time we've done this as a virtual presentation, and this is generally something where we would do a show of hands or anything like that. So please I'll just kind of cut to the chase. In this instance, when something's stolen from your property and you're not there, it's going to be a stealing. I'll just kind of go through some different terminologies here. A robbery, that's going to be when somebody uses force or they use a threat of force to take property from you personally, like your purse snatchings, or if you're in a business or something along those lines and you're working you're working the register and they come in, they tell you they have a gun, give me all the money. That's going to be a robbery because they're using force or they're threatening to use force, or they have used force. A burglary, that's going to be when somebody breaks, forces entry into either a home or a business to commit a crime or to steal something along those lines. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the person's home or not. If let's say let's say middle of the night, you're upstairs, you're asleep or whatever. Somebody comes in through your back through your back screen door, or somebody comes in through a window or something along those lines. That's going to be a burglary. They're making an entry into a house or a business to steal something or commit a crime. And then a regular just a stealing, that's going to be like, we'll use the lawnmower left outside, for example, or a bicycle, just or if somebody gets into a car and takes some property out of the car. All that's going to be a stealing, because the stealing is just basically the taking of property when the owner is not around. Yeah, let's see here. I'll talk about call prioritization real quick. So basically, we have about 10 different priorities for calls. I'm only going to talk about the first 5 because it's basically the ones that are going to affect you the most. Our priority 1 and 2 calls, this is going to be priorities for calls that present extreme danger or potential danger to human life. This is going to be our crimes such as our shootings, rapes, or robberies that are in progress or they've just occurred. When our 911 dispatchers get these calls, they have to dispatch. They have to have that call dispatched within 2 minutes, preferably in under 1 minute. Priority 3 and 4 calls. These are going to be calls where where it's a non-life threatening and it does not present an immediate danger to human life. This is going to be like our 911 hang-up calls, are holding a person for a nonviolent crime, or reporting a nonviolent crime or suspicious activity. We're going to attempt to dispatch that call within 5 minutes or as soon as the next officer is available. And our priority 5 call, that's going to be in calls in which a delayed police response will not hinder the quality of the investigation or service to the person, or it is a report type call, like our property crimes where the suspect isn't there anymore. Noise disturbances, or simple assaults, or an assault where a victim really has no injuries. These calls, I'm going to brace you for it right now. These calls will be dispatched when the police officer responsible for that particular area becomes available. We have up to 4 hours to dispatch on that. Very rarely do we hit that 4-hour mark because it's quite frankly, it's our officers. They have the call. They have the computers to see these calls in queue, and a lot of times they'll as soon as they clear from a call, they'll go in. They'll handle the next call that's in their area. So although we have up to 4 hours to dispatch on that, it doesn't take up to 4 hours very often. We do get to them as soon as we can. All right.
Rick?
Yes.
Elizabeth, Cheryl shared something I think is kind of important, and I want to see what your thoughts are. But she said we have more and more cars parked out on the street. Safety is an issue, as well as enticing to thieves. Also, we've all gotten pretty comfortable leaving a lot of stuff out in the yards, and tools and bikes and toys and sports equipment. Also she thinks that probably that's an enticing thing to people scoping out things to steal. We need to put our stuff away and make the neighborhood less fruitful for thieves. And I thought that was a really good point.
That's a very good point. That was Cheryl, right?
Yep.
Cheryl, thank you for taking thank you for taking my drive from me, because I was getting ready to hit on that. No, Cheryl, thank you. Seriously, I do appreciate that. It's kind of makes going into this, what I'm about to talk about, kind of makes it a little bit easier, because I'll tell you right now, I'm not one of these.
Thunder, I'm sorry.
No, Cheryl, you did just fine. Believe me, thank you. I genuinely do appreciate it, because it's I'm not the type of person that's going to come in and start blaming the victims. I There's no room for it. But with that being said, with our property crimes, I'm going to say about 90% of them are just what Cheryl pointed out. Items are left out. They're left unsecured. They're, they're stored outside. Bicycles, lawnmowers, recreational equipment, cars. When I'll tell you, when I get a phone call in the office about, a rash of car break-ins in a neighborhood, I'm going to tell you right now, when I go in and I read these reports, I have a very hard time calling these car break-ins. And the reason why is these people out here who are committing these crimes, they're not breaking into anything. They're walking over and they're lifting the door handle and they're getting in the cars. That's what we see in a lot of these instances, especially when we have an area where there's been a rash of them. When we do see a break-in, when they either break the glass or they, we'll see them pry a lock. However, they force entry into a car that may be locked. What we're seeing is items of value are left out in the open. Another thing that's very, very scary is when cars are left unlocked, items that we're seeing that are accessible is garage door openers. And we do have a problem with garage door burglaries. So basically, in those instances, may have started out as a theft from auto, basically just graduated to a residential burglary because now they have access to the garage. But the scariest thing of all, and that we see is, and when I do these stats for like our neighborhood groups and our business corridors on a monthly basis, if I have an instance where I have more than maybe 4 or 5 theft from autos, when someone's had items stolen from a car, there's going to be a gun taken out of at least one of those cars. I can almost bet my paycheck on it, and that's scary because most of the time, not only was the gun left in the car was left unlocked. So Cheryl, you bring up a very good point. It's something that it's something I preach till I'm blue in the face sometimes. It's a lot of our property crimes in our neighborhoods and in our business districts too, for that matter, can be prevented by locking those cars up, locking those valuables out of sight, or just taking them with you all together.
Hey,
yes.
Officer Jones, why don't we talk about the 9 o'clock? I think that'd be a good thing to talk about because that kind of plays right into this.
Yes, it does. I was just getting ready to go into, actually, Ed, I'll bring up 9 p.m. routine because I talk about Watch KC here towards the end of the presentation. I'll just kind of
do you? Okay.
Together. Yes.
All right. Sorry.
No, that's all right. So basically, yeah, like I said, I don't like to blame the victims, but it's in layman's terms, folks. I'm guilty of it too. We all have to take a certain level of responsibility by practicing some prevention on our end. I mean, am I the guy? Have I left my garage door up? Yes. Have I left my car out in the driveway? Yep. Have I left the garage door opener on the sun visor? Yep, guilty. I've done this too. But it's one of those things where there's always, no matter who you are, there's always room for improvement, and that's it's something I preach. Ed, you've been to meeting after meeting with me. It's like it's something I always hit on, even in a good month when it's like, hey, we're doing really good with this stuff. I always put it out there as a reminder because it's just something that we can never hear enough of. So again, thank you very much, Cheryl. Just kind of made my transition into that talk very easy. All right, let's see. Ed, I think this might be a good time to talk about some group organization on slide 20. What do you think?
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Okay. All right. In this section, we're going to talk about how they are looking to let me rephrase that. We're going to talk to you all a little bit and just kind of get an idea of what your ideas are on being organized. Slide 21, you're going to see a structure.
Hey, Rick, why don't we have them do it in chat and you can kind of follow it on chat. It'd be a lot quicker and a lot easier.
Okay, I'll take your word on it.
Sorry, Officer Jones, was there a question that needed to be, that you
No,
put out
it's,
to?
well, no, I was, yeah, basically what I was going to be asking is, have you given any thoughts to what your structure is going to be like as far as, who your coordinator is going to be, maybe block captains, or anything like that yet, or?
Yeah, that's kind of the structure that I was thinking about. I don't have a problem being the coordinator. If somebody that may be more passionate about that would want to do it, I'm fine with that. I don't need to control that myself, but then having block captains, having the kind of a chain of command there that goes into that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Or in a command or phone tree, however you,
right.
or phone tree for our non-military folks. How's that?
Yes.
And then I'm just going to throw some numbers at you real quick. According to National Crime Watch, I believe that's an association, there should be a block captain for every 10 to 15 homes. I mean, it's just a matter of what your means of communication are going to be. Is it going to be done by email? Is it going to be done by, like I said, the traditional phone tree? Is it going to be done by text groups? However you guys are going to do that. That's, and that, again, your neighborhood better than I do. But the recommendation is one block captain for every 10 to 15 homes. The structure is in place to help get important information out quickly. And every resident is responsible for calling 911 or the non-emergency number if they observe suspicious activity. Now, let me clarify that. Let's say, for example, someone lives on a cul-de-sac towards the end of the neighborhood, observes a car break-in. That's going to be something we expect them to call 911. They call 911. They put that information out. That 911 call is going to be good enough. Now, if other people in the neighborhood witness additional break-ins or any other type of criminal activity associated with this, yes, we want the additional 911 calls. What we don't want to happen is somebody observes something, they put it on they report it to I use the term they report it to Facebook, and we start getting about 10 911 calls from people who are reading this information off of Facebook, and they really don't have anything except what they're reading on Facebook. That's not what we're going for. It's basically whoever observes any type of activity, you observe it, you report it. That's what we mean by that. This structure can also be used to distribute flyers for upcoming events or giving out gift bags for homebound residents throughout the year. Just anything that you want to get information out on. Now, let's see. And just kind of seeing how everybody works, just sitting back and watching this. Looks like you guys do a pretty good job of that, just getting that out to the neighborhood already. Let's see, I'm gonna move on to the next slide. It's gonna be slide 22, Ed. One thing that you're gonna want to do once you get your coordinator and your block watch captains in place is you're gonna want to assess the needs of your neighborhood. And this is kind of what we talked about a little bit at the beginning of the presentation of what are your neighborhood's needs. Some ideas on how to build participation. And that's going to be, some of the things that some of our other crime watch groups have done before. And neighborhoods do this quite a bit. Like your neighborhood cleanup. Your, if you have elderly folks in the neighborhood, you go over and you do a cleanup for them, or you do some house repairs. Just anything that gets the neighborhood involved. It does, it doesn't always have to be about crime watch, but at the end of the day, it's you build that participation, you build that camaraderie, you get that stronger sense of neighborhood and looking out for each other. You're delegating your leadership roles, and you're looking for ways to maintain energy. And just something to keep in mind too, you got to be kind of fluid with this, because a neighborhood's needs they tend to change at any time. And with this, you're also going to help to identify block problems and arrange to fix them. We're relaying information to members. Help identify block problems and arrange, again, I think we said that already. And coordinate check-ins for our elderly residents, like our shut-ins, or, COVID-19, what's going on right now, that's huge right now. So we have our elderly. We don't, they're more susceptible to this COVID. We don't want them to get out any more than they have to. So, that's when we're checking in on them more. Hey, do you need me to go to the store? Or if you're my mom, it's like, oh no, I'm fine. I got everything I need, as she's on the phone at the store with her friend. But we're just check on those elderly folks, or the folks who are just easily, they might have medical conditions. They might be easily susceptible to illness. Work with those that show up for the meeting. Talk with everyone and make sure they are involved. Recruit your seniors and your youth. Everybody's going to have a role in this. If you have somebody, they might not be the best, they might not be as mobile just because of age or any kind of, physical ailments, but, they might be a heck of an organizer. They might be able to round the troops. They might be able to get, but they might be one of those people, hey, they talk, people listen. Everybody's going to have a role here. And of course, always recruit your new members. Someone moves into the neighborhood, we know the old term, the neighborhood welcome basket. Go over and introduce yourselves and promote the crime watch. Also we every year we do an event called Kansas City United Against Crime, and we, for the past couple of years, we've been able to get some LED light bulbs donated from KC Power and Light, or Evergy now. We didn't really get as many of those out as we can. So one of the ideas that we're doing is, if you have somebody that moves into the neighborhood, you want to welcome them, or get a hold of us. We can get you a package of LED light bulbs to get out to them as a kind of like a welcoming gift. But with the idea is that they're going to use those light bulbs to put them on the outside of the house to increase that nighttime visibility, and that kind of falls into SEPTED a little bit, that we were talking about a little bit ago. And so if that's something that you're interested in, please get a hold of me. I'd love to be able to get you some of those items. Leadership roles can include communication, coordinating the check-in on elderly and shut-ins, event planning, recruiting, and other functions specific to your neighborhood watch. Again, is this your program? It's how in detail do you want to go with this? That's a lot of roles there, and it's it's one of those. It's what you'll get out of it, what you put into it. The sky's the limit. We have a neighborhood. Oh, Ed, I'm going to brag on one of our recent crime watch. Well, I guess they've been around for about a year now, for about a second. So we had a neighborhood. They came to us about a year ago. Had I'll use the term off the chain drug house. There were shootings out there. People who had lived in the neighborhood for 50 years were moving because of this house. And it had been a thorn in our side for a long time. They got a crime watch started, and they did not let up. They became very organized, very on it. They are an example of what a crime watch, can be. That was about a year ago. They had a few more instances with the house, but finally the house sold. It was picked up by an investment firm. They are in the process of gutting this house right now, putting in, going in, just totally remodeling it. I'm familiar with the firm. They have a few rentals here in the area, and they're a very reputable operation. They put good people in there. When they get done, it's gonna be total contrasting as far as what these folks were dealing with a year ago. And I credit a lot of it is to their crime watch and them just not letting up. Anytime there was an issue at the house, they were gathering at the neighbor's house across the street in the driveway, and they watched. They sent the powerful message of, hey, yeah, we're watching you. We know what's going on, and we're reporting this. That's the main thing. So that's a huge success story. But I tell you that to tell you this group, they're very organized. Their crime watch group, they meet every month, and they focus on those quality of life issues. They're focusing more on those elderly folks in the neighborhood who might need help with house painting or some just work around the house. They're working on getting food out to some of their shut-in residents who are confined because of COVID. They're doing neighborhood cleanups. And they've been around for a year. I'm telling you, that's where they are with their crime watch, and they're on fire. And with that, they have the regular scheduled meetings, neighborhood improvement projects, cleanups, landscaping of like common areas, landscaping and upkeep of like common areas and so forth. You guys have that fountain, I think, as you guys go into the neighborhood, things like that. And this is probably stuff you guys are already doing. One thing I really like to promote is activity meetups. That's going to be like regular neighborhood walks and jogs. I think we've heard of the meetup groups. Like if it's one of those things where like during this time of year, it's like Thursday night at 7 o'clock, we're going to meet at the pool. We're going to do, we're going to have a meetup group that walks the neighborhood or jogs the neighborhood. Everybody's welcome. Kid play dates at the park or athletic games, touch football or anything like that. And I'll also take this time to discuss the 9 p.m. routine and ways to incorporate it into neighborhood activities. I'll just kind of go back to that, that neighborhood walking or jogging meetup. Maybe you have a group, they're diehards. They decide, hey, you know what, every night at 9 o'clock, we're going to walk the neighborhood. That 9 p.m. routine, where the 9 p.m. routine comes into play is this. That's going to be when you're checking to see if your doors are locked, windows are locked, your garage doors are closed. But we want you to take it a step further. We want you to look out, are your neighbors' garage doors open? Just making sure everything's secure, not just in your home, but any of the homes around you. Now, this has come up before. If let's say you look outside and your neighbor's garage door is open. Do you post it on the Facebook page or next door? No. Get a hold of your block captain, or if you know the person, or you can contact them. Just call them up, say, hey, do you know your garage door is open? Something like that. Or if you're part of that group, you're walking the neighborhood, just kind of making sure everything's squared away. You see a garage door open, approach just go to the neighbor's doors, remind them, hey, is your door, did you know your garage door was open? Just things like that. Just little things where it's like you're going to be out if you're going to be out anyway, exercising or just doing, getting out of the house, just use that as an opportunity to just kind of make sure things are squared away. All right, Ed, I'm going to move on to communication on slide 23. Okay, what are some methods of communication? We've kind of hit on this already, but some methods of communication are going to be just the good old-fashioned phone tree. And with that, you can do so many things with it. That could, and with the smartphones out there now, you're going to have access to your social media. You're going to have access to your email, and you're going to have your text messages. So pretty much any one of these you can do with the smartphone. It's just a matter of deciding which of these works out best for you. Again, you guys know what works best for your community. It's just a matter of figuring out, and you might try a couple of these before you figure out what works best. And again, I've already said it before. I'll say it again. Keep in mind that your neighbors are already doing this a lot of times.
Hey, Rick.
Uh-huh.
We're going on about 8 o'clock. Let's. I don't want to keep these folks all night.
Okay.
Let's. I'm just trying to be conscious of everybody's time.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'll hit on Watch KC real quick, and then I think I'll skip over neighborhood goals then, and then just because that's going to be something that the group would probably want to discuss, probably at their first meeting or virtual meeting, or however they want to do that. Watch KC real quick. That's our police department's camera registration program, for outdoor cameras. It's going to be for homes or businesses, and it's a tool that we use to investigate crimes. Basically, if you register your cameras, we're going to ask you for your name, the address of the cameras, any contact information as far as phone and email addresses, and the number of cameras and where they're located, and basically which direction they're pointing. If anybody wants and the way this works is it goes into a database. Let's say there's a burglary across the street from your house. Once the detectives assign that case, they'll go into the Watch KC database, and they're going to look to see which, where the registered cameras are around that, the house, the scene of that burglary. And they're going to see, oh, hey, Mr. Smith has a camera, has some cameras registered across the street. They're going to call you and shoot you, or shoot you an email and just say, hey, we had a burglary out there across the street from you. June 13th from 1 to 5 in the afternoon. Would you mind being able to check your camera footage or your cameras to see if you might have any archive footage of the offense? It's going to be that simple. We don't ask you for access to your cameras or anything like that. And the program is 100% voluntary. If anybody's interested, shoot me an email, and I will have the link for you to the website. And then lastly, signs. That's going to be the next to the last slide, Ed. And then our neighborhood crime watch signs. Basically, the signs are they'll cost you $10 a piece, and that's going to be through NNI. What we do is we'll one of the CI, usually me, I'll drive your neighborhood, and I'll look to see where I think the best strategic places would be for your for sign placage, and I'll recommend the number of signs also. I'm looking for like entrances into the neighborhood, isolated areas, and then like any area, any types, any places in the neighborhood where you might have an intersection of a of a couple of where the streets may intersect. Like I said, it's an average neighborhood. I see anywhere between 5 and 10 depending on the size of the neighborhood. Once I do the locations, what I'll do is I'll go over them with the coordinator of the Crime Watch program, and then I get those locations out to NNI, and then what they do is they, once they get payment for the signs, what they'll do is they'll have the city actually put those signs up. We install them on light poles that are already currently in place. We like to say it's usually about a 3-week turnaround on that, give or take. It just depends on what time of the year it is and what the city has going on. And on slide 27, that's going to conclude our presentation. Does anybody have any questions before we close this out?
Any questions?
I'm reviewing to see if I have any questions on the chat line. I don't think I see any.
This is Chet. I don't know if I have a question, but more of a thought.
Okay.
I kind of agree completely with the deal where, if you leave your car unlocked and someone snags it, it's not really a crime. But the one thing I observed, I think Gary Gumming posted it on one of those internet crime things, that, these kids that are coming up and trying to handle and the door's locked. I mean, that's fine, but I still think we need to try and snag those kids, because sooner or later, something's going to escalate or elevate and something bad's going to come of it. So we still need to grab these little stinkers or figure out who they are to get them to stop walking up to cars and checking them on in the middle of the night. Just my thought.
Chet, you're 100% right. Let me clarify. When I say, people refer to them as car break-ins. When I say I have a hard time referring to them as car break-ins, I mean, yeah, they're not breaking into them. Are they still committing a crime? Yes, they are. And yes, we're going to take that report still. And yes, you're right. We want to get them identified because, quite frankly, they would make our life a whole lot easier if we can get them identified and get some cases on them that could actually stick. I will tell you, pretty much at any given time, we have about 2 or 3 groups that are out there hitting the neighborhoods that are doing this. And just from interrogations that we've done with with people when we've caught them in the act or we've got them identified as a theft from auto suspect, we've heard it more than once that they don't live in the Northland, or they frequent the Northland, but the word's out there. Yeah, if you go north of the river, people have nice stuff and they don't lock their stuff. They don't lock anything up. We have 2 or 3 neighborhoods, and we have 2 or 3 neighborhoods that they tend to get hit pretty regularly. And highway access has a lot to do with this. If you're up on the 152 corridor, I mean, it's a constant battle. Some neighborhoods are better about it than others, but we have a couple of neighborhoods they'll reach out to us. They're frustrated because it seems like they're getting hit with theft from autos all the time, and they are. But again, when I go in and read the reports, it's like, yeah, they're leaving their stuff unlocked. It's like this. If you leave your stuff unlocked and and these people figure out that you're prime for taking, that's where they're gonna come back to. Whereas opposed to, if they ain't getting anything from your neighborhood, they're probably not gonna be coming through there. So it's yeah, by all means. I mean, if they're out there trying the car door handles, yeah, we still want to get them in custody. We still want to get them identified. You're right, but I do want to clarify that. I apologize for any misperception.
No worries. Thank you. No worries at all. Great job.
Chad, I do want to make a comment. You don't want to go out and grab them, but I think maybe one of the better ways to go about it is try to get a good description of the guys and maybe get a phone tree going so others are out watching them in the neighborhood. They will get the notice that everybody's on watch and that you're there and paying attention. I think that's the critical piece. I don't want anybody out there racing down these kids because they could have weapons. They do use a baton or something to break the windows to get into cars. I would hate for anybody to get hurt. So,
agree completely.
I know how you feel though, Chad. I really do. I would love to go grab them and shake some sense into them. But I think more importantly is please be safe. Call 911. Let them know.
And then get the phone tree.
Yeah, and the phone tree becomes a really cool tool.
Just something to think about, and this is happening. This has happened, and and just with the state of affairs here in our country right now, we have had instances where somebody's out there, they're doing just that. They're trying car doors, they're trying to do theft from autos out here. Neighbor goes down, runs them down. Whether if they physically hold them down, we've had instances where people they have a CCW, so they're going to hold them at gunpoint. Yeah, we end up making the arrest for theft from auto when we have everything we need, but we also end up arresting a citizen for an assault because at the end of the day, it's not you're putting yourself in harm by confronting these folks, and then if you're sitting there and you're using basically any kind of force to hold them, so to speak. Missouri does not have a citizen's arrest statute, so you're really putting yourself in civil and criminal position if you're going out there and you're confronting these folks, especially if things go bad. So that's something to think about as well. But your safety is number one. Ed's right. So you see something, you observe something, say something, call 911, get the information out on the phone tree, and get the best information you can on best suspect and vehicle descriptions.
They won't come back because of that.
Oh, yeah, a couple of thoughts that I had with everything too. I know there's a lot of houses around the neighborhood that don't seem to have any exterior lighting in the evenings. It would seem that I don't know if you guys have had experience or success in neighborhoods based on exterior lighting, yard lights, porch lights, any of those kinds of things, if that helps to deter at all.
It does help. It does help to deter. Well, on something like that, if a deterrent is working, it's we really can't sit here and pull out numbers or say, hey, yeah, something's working or something isn't working to an extent. But yes, but on the principle itself, yes, outdoor lighting has been proven to, it has been proven to act as a deterrent.
Okay.
So that's very huge.
Right. The other thought that I had was wondering if there's opportunity or benefit. I know the surrounding neighborhoods that we've got Brooktree, Carriage Hill, Foxwoods around us. Do they have neighborhood watch programs and coordinators that our coordinator could coordinate with? Would there be any benefit to doing that?
I think up there, north of Vivian Road there, north of, where you're at. I can't think of any other crime watch groups that are currently in play. Can you, Ed?
Not at the moment, but
okay.
Nope.
But it's this just to kind of play from on something from the very beginning real quick. We want this to be a community-driven program as much as a law enforcement-driven program. I mean, let's face it. When we start talking about Crime Watch or Neighborhood Watch, you expect the cop in the room to say, "Hey, this is a great program. Everybody should be doing it," which they should be. But it's gonna take on a whole lot more meaning if this if this is coming from your fellow neighborhoods. So basically, what I'm getting at is this might be a good opportunity for you to reach out to your folks that you may know over in Foxwoods, what'd you say, Brooktree, Carriage Hills North. And even into Gladstone, we have our counterparts over in Gladstone do the Crime Watch program as well. So it's a different department, but it's the same program, same information. At the end of the day, it's sharing information. It's especially across. It's very important to share that information across city boundaries, because it's like the criminals don't respect city boundaries. So yeah, we need to be sharing that information, police departments and neighborhoods alike. So basically, what I'm saying, Ryan, is help us promote it. If people start hearing it from you and they hear it from us, we might start having some more neighborhoods get involved.
All right. Anybody else have any other questions we want to make sure we get fielded during our call here before we part ways?
Please take note. My phone number was rung on that screen. If you guys if you want to talk about Crime Watch signs and want to go down that path, I'm more than happy to help with that. And please reach out to my email address or phone number, and we can make that happen.
Hey Ed, real quick, just so I'm gonna update the PowerPoint on my end, so that way I have the correct number. What is the correct number again?
My number is area code 816-595-3075, and my email is ed_Linnebur, LINNEBUR @nni.org.
I'm not sure why I put. I think I got ahead of myself there by putting his information on there.
Yeah, I'll put it back up for you.
All right.
So, there it is. Let me ask one question. I put it out on chat, but I really would like to know. This is our first time doing this, and what could we do better? I know we had some technical difficulties with the noise, but what could we do better maybe going forward? And I'm open to some suggestions before we close it out.
That's a great question, Ed. I know on my side, the things I would recommend, I don't know if there's a possibility for the moderator to be able to mute everybody, like when they first come in, that can kind of help with the feedback down. I don't know if you have the ability to be in control of that or not. But
this is my first meeting to do this, but I will learn how to. Yeah. I guarantee you.
Okay.
All right. That's a good one. Thank you.
Yeah. And then I don't know if there's a way to share files and things within the call, but just to have quick access to the PowerPoint and any other resources that may be on there as well.
Okay.
And maybe mentioning the chat option at the beginning, because people might not know that you can chat and ask questions throughout.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. Well, you all have been wonderful. Thank you so much for everything, and I appreciate you all staying with us to 8:05. Wonderful. If you want us to come back and talk about some specifics, or if you'd like us at a neighborhood meeting, please hesitate. Or if you want us to help you with thinking through how to organize, we're more than happy to do that.
That'll work. Thank you so much, Ed. And thank you, neighbors, for jumping on the call this evening. I hope you guys all have a great evening. And
please stay safe.
We'll be in touch soon.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.